difficult to watch, and I'm not trying to exploit it for like a shock value, but I want you to truly understand what was done for you at the cross. I want you to have a knowledge of why it had to be done. You know, when I watch that clip, the only thing that comes to mind is, you know, which person would I have been in the crowd? You know, there are some that watched that go on and viewed him as a criminal and looked at him in disgust, and yet there were some who watched that go on and had pity on him but did nothing. And, you know, there are all these different images of who could I have been if I was there? Would I have been the person that was actually carrying that act out on Jesus? And, you know, there have been many times in our life where we've accepted that sacrifice and yet not been fully aware of what was done. And when we were talking about those 39 stripes, you know, and those 39 strains of virus where all disease has come from, it just means that He made a way so that you could be free, that He experienced the physical torture in His body so that your body might be made whole, and that He was broken as a sacrifice. You know, in the Old Testament, you know, if you committed a crime, you had to cover your, you know, sin with the blood of an innocent animal, because that innocent blood would take the place of the crime that you had committed. In very much the same way that if you had done something wrong and the judge said that you had been sentenced to do 5 years in prison, I said, no, I'll serve it for them instead and take their place, even though I committed no crime. You know, let them go free so that I can serve the penalty for their sin. And Jesus took those 39 stripes on His back for you. We're going to move now to the cross, or to the crown of thorns that was pushed onto His head. You know, I know that a lot of times in life we experience like a mental anguish, that pressure that's on our mind. And I know that in Genesis, when you had Adam and Eve and they fell in the garden, you know, they took of the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil and they sinned. They did the thing that God told them not to do. Part of the curse that they experienced was that Adam, the man, was going to have to work by the sweat of his brow. And you know, if you read like the Song of Solomon, it talks over and over and again about how sometimes life can seem so meaningless that we go through the motions and we wake up and we go through the routines day in and day in day out, working, especially as men, by the sweat of our brow. And then Christ came and He bore that crown of thorns on His head, so that He could redeem us from the curse, so that we'll be fruitful in our labor, that our mind, that mental anguish that we suffer, we could be released from all the bondages in our mind, all those voices that speak to us. You know, they said over the weekend, someone said, you know, you can't help a bird from landing on your head, but you can stop it from building a nest. You know, and a lot of times these mentalities, these ways of thinking, you can't help them from coming to you in life. Your teachers and different ones in life are, you know, speaking these things to your parents. You know, the teenagers around you are speaking this way of thinking. And you can't help it that that's come to you, but you can stop it from building a nest. You can stop that way of thinking from becoming a permanent part on your mind. And that crown of thorns was pressed into His head so that you can be free in your mind. We're going to keep moving. We're just going to keep moving, Kat. We have the hands. How many of you guys, when you're a child, sometimes when you get in trouble, your parents tell me, show me your hands. Have you ever had that happen to you? Did you do it? Let me see your hands. Do you know what I'm talking about? Your hands represent your responsibility. When someone says, I have clean hands. And when those nails were being driven through Jesus' hand, He was taking the responsibility for what you've done wrong. I want everyone here just to bow their heads for just a few seconds. I just want you to close your eyes, and I want everything else to just fade out around you so that you can concentrate. Those hands, as they bore those nails, were taking the responsibility for the things that we've done. I want you right now just to think about the worst thing that you have ever done in life. The most horrible thing that you've ever committed, the thing that maybe no one else knows about, the thing that maybe even your closest friend you'd be afraid to tell. That thing was the reason why Jesus went to the cross, so that you could be free from that moment. So that thing did not ever hold you bound for the remainder of your life. That is why I'm preaching this tonight. When He stretched His hands out on that cross, it was so that you did not have to be that person forever. His feet, when they would put a nail through the feet, through the ankle bone, what would happen is that when you would be hanging vertical, everyone open your eyes and just look at me for a second. When you would be hanging vertical on that cross, all the weight of your body would be on those nails. And it would be very difficult to take a breath because of the pressure. There are many of you here who walk around with a heavy weight on your shoulders. You feel it weighing you down every day when you wake up. This pressure that's on you, a burden on you. And when they were on that cross being crucified, when Jesus was on that cross, all of a sudden, in order to take a breath, you would have to push all your weight on that nail in your feet, just so you could get up for a second and take a breath and then release it. And when Jesus was hanging on that cross and they nailed his feet to that cross, he did that to free you from that heavy weight, to free you from that burden, that oppression that weighs you down. The last thing that they did is that they stuck a spear in the side of Jesus. And when they did that, all of a sudden, it said that blood and water began to pour out from that wound. You know, medically, the only time that water and blood, a mixture, will come out of the human body is when the human heart implodes. And in that moment, when they put that spear in Jesus' side, his heart was broken for you so that your broken heart could be made whole. You know, that living water began to come out of him so that you could be made whole in your heart. And I want to look at Psalms 24. Kev, do you have that? Psalms 24. It says, the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, the world and they that dwell therein. For he had founded it upon the seas and established it upon the clouds. And it says, who shall ascend into the hill of the Lord, or shall stand upon his holy place? Keep going. He that has clean hands and a pure heart, who have not lifted up his soul into vanity, nor sworn deceitfully, he shall receive the blessing from the Lord and righteousness from the God of his salvation. It said, who can go on this hill? Who can go to the place? This is the generation of them that seek him, that seek thy face. That is you. When you accept what Jesus did to make your hands clean, and when that spear went into his side and his heart imploded and released that water and blood so that your heart can be made clean, then you can go up to that place and be with God and come boldly before the throne. But for some of you, that has been a very difficult thing to do because the accuser is always in your face reminding you, you took him to the cross. You crucified Jesus. You did this wrong. You're a waste of people's time. You better, some of us are overachievers in life because we feel like we're a waste of someone's time, and you have to prove that you are worth someone's time. You have to prove that you are worth something. Some of us go out of our way to make people happy, to prove that we are worth being a friend to them. To prove that you are worth something because the accuser is always in your face, pointing that finger. Let's read Revelation 12:20, or 12:10 rather. Revelation 12:10 says, and I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now is come salvation and strength and the kingdom of our God and the power of his Christ. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our God day and night. When is Satan accusing you? Day and night.